Hustle culture isn't just a trend. It's a modern-day religion. Preached on LinkedIn, romanticized on TikTok, and canonized in TED Talks. We're told to wake up at 5 a.m., drink green juice, journal, hit the gym, build an empire, answer every email before 9, and smile while doing it. But here's the thing, it's fucking exhausting. And worse, it's not working. You keep checking all the boxes. You keep pushing through. But there's still that voice in the back of your head asking, why does none of this feel good? This video is not a productivity tip list. It's not another how to avoid burnout lecture wrapped in pastel graphics and fake compassion. This is an unfiltered call-out of a culture that's bleeding us dry in the name of ambition. If you've been feeling like your best isn't enough, that rest is guilt-inducing, or that you're constantly failing some invisible race, you're not broken. You've been lied to, and it's time we fucking talk about it.
You know what's wild? You can be falling apart and still get a fucking standing ovation. Because in hustle culture, collapse isn't a warning sign, it's a goddamn trophy. You post about working 16 hours straight and people call you a beast. You skip meals, sleep 4 hours, grind through a migraine, and people say you're inspiring. Let that sink in. They clapped while you burned. Because that's what this system rewards. Not health, not balance, not joy. Just output. Just your usefulness. And if you're not useful, if you need a break, a breath, a fucking pause, suddenly you're lazy, unfocused, unmotivated, not serious about your goals. No one ever says it out loud, but the rule is clear. If you're not producing, you're disappearing. Let's name the beast for what it is. Hustle culture isn't about passion, it's about performance. You're not just working, you're auditioning. For relevance, for praise, for survival. Every rise and grind post is a subtle panic that if you don't show up today with something impressive, you'll be forgotten. And here's the sickest part. It works. Because hustle culture is seductive as fuck. It makes you feel chosen, powerful, like you're in control of your destiny, like you're better than everyone who's still wasting time. Until you blink and realize you haven't felt peace in years. You know what hustle culture really is? It's emotional capitalism. You're not just selling your labor, you're selling your energy, your attention, your identity. And they want it all. Your mornings, your nights, your weekends, your goddamn self-worth. Even your free time becomes strategic. Every hobby becomes a hustle. Every conversation becomes networking. Every thought you have gets repackaged into content. You're not a person anymore. You're a walking LinkedIn post waiting to happen. And let's talk about how it starts. It doesn't begin with toxic bosses or over-demanding jobs, not always. Sometimes it starts with good intentions. You want to be better. You want to build something real. You want to make your family proud. Escape poverty. Prove you're not a fuck-up. So you work, and work, and work. And the more exhausted you get, the more they praise you. The less you sleep, the more they cheer. And suddenly you realize you're addicted to being needed. Addicted to being busy. Because busy means you matter. Busy means you're safe. But that safety is a fucking illusion. Because what happens when you stop? Here's what hustle culture never prepares you for. The silence. The moment you put down your phone and realize you don't know who the fuck you are without a to-do list. The day you finally take a break and your body doesn't know how to rest. It just panics in slow motion. The second someone asks you what you like, not what you do, and you don't have an answer. That's what this culture steals from you. Not just your time, but your sense of self. And if you grew up in a household where love was tied to achievement, God help you. You're not just hustling for success, you're hustling for love, for permission to exist. You don't rest because some deep part of you believes rest makes you worthless. That's not motivation, that's trauma wearing a Fitbit. So let's kill the fantasy right now. You're not going to grind your way into peace. You're not going to hustle so hard that one day you magically arrive at happiness. That finish line doesn't exist. Because every time you get close, the line moves. And the applause fades, and the algorithm resets. And the bar gets higher again. You don't need another planner. You don't need another 5 a.m. routine. You don't need to optimize your fucking morning. You need to get angry. Angry at a system that told you your value is only as good as your last accomplishment. Angry that you haven't felt joy without guilt in years. Angry that they convinced you rest is weakness and collapse is strength. Look, I'm not saying don't work hard. I'm not saying don't chase your dreams. I'm saying this. If your ambition is slowly killing you, maybe it's not your dream. Maybe it's a nightmare they sold you in a shiny package. Maybe you don't want to build an empire. Maybe you just want to feel okay in your own skin. And maybe that's fucking enough. Let them judge. Let them talk. Let them grind until they grind themselves into dust. You can start asking better questions. Not, how do I get more done? But, who am I if I stop? What have I been running from? What would it look like to be free? Because hustle culture won't ask you those questions. But I will.
Let's get something straight right now. You're not lazy. You're not unmotivated. You're not wasting your potential. You are fucking tired. Bone deep, soul worn, edge of collapse, tired. And no amount of morning routines or hustle porn is gonna fix that. Because what you're dealing with isn't a productivity issue, it's a survival response. Your nervous system isn't broken. It's responding to a world that won't let you breathe. Let's talk about what hustle culture does to your body. Not in theory, in real shit, the kind your doctor brushes off as stress and your job calls a personal issue. Chronic migraines, chest pain that feels like a heart attack but isn't. Back spasms from sitting in high alert mode for 10 hours a day. Hair falling out, skin breaking out, digestion completely wrecked. You're not just sensitive, you're burning your body like a fucking battery. And the worst part? We normalize it. We brag about it. We make TikToks about how many Red Bulls it takes to get through a double shift and call it relatable. It's not relatable, it's tragic. You weren't built to live like this. And the mental side? Fuck. You wake up with a racing heart and go to sleep with your brain in overdrive. You forget basic things like names, appointments, words mid-sentence, because your cognitive load is maxed out. You swing between anxiety and numbness like a goddamn metronome. And still, you ask yourself, why can't I just push through? Because this system teaches you to question yourself before you question the system. You feel guilty for needing help, guilty for needing sleep, guilty for saying no, for stepping back, for not being on all the time. That's not guilt, that's conditioning. They taught you rest was selfish, that stillness was failure. And now you don't even know how to sit in silence without feeling like you're falling behind. And let's not ignore the emotional damage, the shit that doesn't show up on blood tests. Like the way your friendships start to fade because you're always too busy. Or how every conversation with your partner becomes transactional, schedules, tasks, logistics, because you're both too drained for intimacy. or the weird, creeping shame when you're doing nothing and your brain whispers, "You're wasting time. You should be doing something useful." You used to write music, paint, play basketball for no reason, laugh until your stomach hurt. Now you scroll, you reply to emails at midnight. You call that self-care. You can't remember the last time you felt wonder. Not productivity, not purpose. Wonder. That part of you didn't die. It just got buried under spreadsheets, calendar invites, and the fear of being left behind. And let's talk about why you're so scared to stop. Because underneath all the hustle, there's a quieter truth. You're terrified that if you're not doing something impressive, people will forget you exist. You're afraid you'll be replaced, left behind, labeled a failure. Or worst of all, seen for who you really are when you're not on. That's not ambition. That's a trauma response. You've learned to use achievement as armor. If you just keep moving, they can't criticize you. If you just stay productive, no one can say you're not enough. But that armor gets heavy, and eventually it becomes a cage. And here's something no one talks about. Burnout doesn't always look like a breakdown. Sometimes it looks like low-grade misery, getting through the day but not really living it. Not suicidal, but also not excited to wake up. Sometimes burnout looks like scrolling your phone for 3 hours in silence, avoiding the growing panic in your chest. It looks like feeling resentful for being needed and ashamed for feeling that way. It's not dramatic, it's quiet, but it's eating you alive just the same. And if you grew up poor or marginalized or chronically underestimated, that hustle, it's survival. You hustle because you had to, because no one was coming to save you, because you had to work twice as hard to get half as far. And now, even when you don't need to grind 24/7, you don't know how to stop. Because somewhere along the way, rest started to feel dangerous. And that's what hustle culture exploits. It sells you the illusion of freedom while keeping you addicted to fear. So no, you're not lazy. You are fucking tired. From carrying the weight of being everything to everyone. From proving yourself every goddamn day. From living in a system that applauds your pain and ignores your humanity. You're not broken. You're burnt out. And that's a completely rational response to an irrational world. Next, we go deeper. Who profits when you stay stuck in this cycle? Because burnout isn't just personal, it's fucking systemic.
Let's stop pretending this is all just a personal failure. Like burnout is something you solve with lavender oil and a better planner. You want the truth? You're not exhausted by accident. You're exhausted by design. Because if you're always tired, you're easier to control. You're too drained to fight back, too overwhelmed to question anything, too busy blaming yourself to see the scam. This isn't just hustle culture, it's a fucking economic strategy. Let's break it down. You're working 50 hours a week, maybe more, still barely making rent, health insurance feels like a luxury, groceries cost more every month. You pick up a side hustle not because you're passionate, but because your main job doesn't pay enough to live. So now you're doing Uber, freelance gigs, digital side projects, whatever the fuck you can just to stay afloat. And you're still falling behind. And they call that entrepreneurial spirit. Fuck that. That's not freedom. That's economic desperation dressed up as ambition. They want you working 3 jobs and calling it hustle. They want you sleep-deprived and calling it grind. Because if you ever stopped, you might notice how badly you're being fucked over. You know who wins in hustle culture? Corporations. Let's be real. Hustle culture didn't come from artists or dreamers or freelancers. It came from boardrooms, from CEOs who realized they could squeeze more out of workers by making overwork feel noble, from companies that print "we're a family" on the wall while cutting your hours and doubling your workload, from managers who praise your commitment when you skip your kid's birthday to finish a slide deck. They don't want balance, they want obedience. And hustle culture keeps you too exhausted to ask for better. And it's not just your boss, it's everything. Social media trains you to think success is visible, measurable by likes, followers, constant updates. So you keep posting, keep proving, keep performing. Even your rest becomes content. Even your burnout becomes a brand. And let's talk about all those productivity influencers. The ones selling $300 courses on how to 10x your output while living off affiliate links and privilege. They're not helping you escape the system. They're selling you a prettier version of the cage. Self-help became a business model, and you're the product. Even therapy gets commodified. You're told to journal, meditate, manifest your goals. All good tools, sure, but notice how every solution puts the pressure back on you? As if the problem is just your mindset, your morning routine, your inability to stay positive. They'll talk all day about burnout, but they won't talk about wage theft. They won't talk about systemic exploitation. They won't talk about capitalism. Because if they did, they'd have to admit this isn't a mental health crisis, it's a cultural one. And here's the most fucked up part. They convince you it's your fault. That if you're not thriving, it's because you're lazy. You're not managing your time right. You're not disciplined enough. You're not using the right app, not waking up early enough, not grateful enough. So now you're tired and ashamed, burned out and blaming yourself. They turn exhaustion into a morality test, and you lose every time. And let's talk about this "do what you love" bullshit. That phrase has been weaponized. It's used to justify underpaying artists, teachers, social workers, anyone who dares to care. As if passion is supposed to pay your fucking rent. They say, well, you chose this. As if choosing meaningful work means you signed up for financial instability and no boundaries. Newsflash, you can love what you do and still deserve rest, safety, and a goddamn living wage. Loving your job shouldn't mean dying for it. Here's what they don't want you to realize. If you stop measuring your worth by your productivity, if you stop chasing hustle and start questioning power, if you stop seeing exhaustion as a badge of honor, you become dangerous. Because a rested person is hard to manipulate. A calm person thinks clearly. A fulfilled person doesn't buy as much shit. A whole person doesn't live in fear. And that's what scares them. Not that you'll fail, but that you'll wake up. So, if you've been feeling like a machine, like you're not allowed to slow down, not allowed to say no, not allowed to fucking feel, just know, it's not a personal weakness. It's a survival tactic. It's the result of years, decades of conditioning. But here's the radical truth. You don't owe this system your burnout. You don't owe them your weekends. You don't owe anyone your silence in exchange for scraps. You're allowed to question the rules. You're allowed to rewrite the script. And you're allowed to rest without earning it. Next, we rebuild, not through hustle, but through reclamation of your time, your energy, your self-worth.
Let's stop asking for permission to be human. You don't need to earn rest.
You don't need to explain why you're tired. You don't need to collapse to justify slowing the fuck down. Rest is not a reward for productivity. It's a baseline, a need, a birthright. You don't question your need for water or air or love. So why the fuck are you questioning your need for peace? Here's the thing no one teaches us. You can opt the fuck out. Not from working, not from dreaming, but from grinding yourself into dust just to feel like you matter. You can choose to stop performing exhaustion as a personality trait. You can stop calling anxiety ambition. You can refuse to wear burnout like a badge of honor. This isn't weakness, it's resistance. We've spent so long being told that productivity is what makes us valuable, that rest is selfish, that boundaries are rude, that softness makes you fall behind. Fuck all of that. Let's rewrite the rules. Let's build a different kind of life. One where your worth isn't up for debate. One where you don't have to break yourself to be respected. Let's talk about what that actually looks like. Step 1. Set the fucking boundary. Not the polite kind, not the maybe I'll see if I can kind. The line in the sand, not your fucking problem if it makes them uncomfortable kind. Turn off notifications after 7 p.m. Don't explain why you're not available on weekends. Say no without a paragraph of justification. Your time is not public property. Your energy is not a community resource. The people who get pissed when you set boundaries, they were benefiting from you having none. Let them be uncomfortable. That's not your job to fix. Step 2. Make rest a ritual, not an afterthought. I'm not talking about bubble baths and candles, unless that shit actually fills your soul. I'm talking about reclaiming time, quiet, nothingness. I'm talking about naps that aren't earned, walks with no podcast playing, evenings with no fucking screens. You know why it's hard to rest? Because your body doesn't trust it anymore. You've spent so long in fight or flight that stillness feels like a threat. You're not lazy, you're unlearning survival. So go slow. Sleep like it's sacred. Daydream like it's a damn appointment. You don't need to deserve rest. You just need to take it. Step 3. Redefine success on your own terms. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt proud of yourself without posting about it? When was the last time you did something meaningful that had nothing to do with growth, money, or progress? If your definition of success doesn't include peace, it's a fucking trap. Real success isn't loud. It's not a viral moment. It's not a grind set. It's being able to wake up without dread. It's being present with your kids, your partner, your friends. It's being able to walk away from shit that doesn't feel right because you trust yourself now. It's not about how much you do. It's about how much of you is still alive while you're doing it. And step 4, reconnect with your humanity. Underneath all the performance and posturing, you're still there, still creative, still weird, still curious, still aching to be more than just a calendar full of tasks. You don't need a 5-year plan, you need a fucking moment of honesty. What do you miss about yourself? What makes you feel most you? What if success looked like feeling safe in your own skin again? Start there. Maybe it's playing an old song on repeat while you cry in the kitchen. Maybe it's sitting under a tree and doing absolutely fucking nothing. Maybe it's laughing until your stomach hurts with someone who doesn't care what you do for work. That's the real shit. That's the soul food. That's what hustle culture tried to bury under deadlines and dopamine loops. And yeah, I know, rest won't solve every problem. You still have bills, kids, shit to handle. But here's what changes when you reclaim your time. You stop seeing yourself as a machine. You stop blaming yourself for being tired. You start listening to your body. You start healing, not just surviving. And that ripples out. You raise kids who don't equate love with overachievement. You build relationships rooted in presence, not performance. You become a fucking lighthouse for other people trying to find their way out of the storm. This isn't about quitting your job and moving to the woods. Unless that's your thing, then hell yeah. It's about this: refusing to live like your life is a pitch deck. Refusing to hand your soul over to systems that never gave a fuck about your well-being. Choosing to live deeply, not just efficiently. Choosing enough over endlessness. Choosing to stop, not because you're broken, but because you're done performing being okay. You don't have to wait for a breakdown to rest. You don't need permission to breathe. You just need to remember. You were never meant to hustle for your worth. You are already enough, exactly as you are, even now, especially now. If this hit you in the chest, if it felt like I was saying the shit you've been thinking but couldn't say out loud, don't just scroll past. Like the video. Subscribe, not for the algorithm, but so you don't forget this feeling next time you're drowning in someone else's definition of success. And if you know someone who's pretending to be okay when they're fucking exhausted, send this to them. Let them know they're not crazy, they're not broken. They're just human in a system that punishes humanity. We're unlearning this shit together. Stick around.